arguments and does anything to make sure that the argument doesn't eventuate or take place. Are you this person? Well, if you are, you've landed on the right podcast. You've landed on the Joyful Mate podcast. I'm your joyful journey mentor, Anthony Hartcher, and today I'm here to share some insights around how you can see the other side of arguments so that you're not seeing arguments as all bad, as they shouldn't happen, that that we shouldn't argue, we shouldn't have fights. And when I'm talking about, I guess, this subject matter, I am conscious that some do escalate into I guess, harm, physical harm or verbal harm. So I'm more talking about the, I guess, lesser severity ones and how to avoid arguments getting to a severity context. So, with that in mind, what I'm sharing is essentially what happens with arguments is that we it's our pride ultimately that gets in the way, and the other person's pride. And what happens is that the two parties that are arguing hold on to self righteousness and believe that they're right and the other person's wrong, and ultimately is putting themselves higher than the other person. In order to diffuse arguments, we really need to lean into them and understand what the other person is ultimately trying to tell us. What we hear and what we feel is the tip of the iceberg. So it's the signs and symptoms. But underlying is something, a message that they've been trying to get across, that they feel that they haven't got across, and that they feel that they haven't been understood. And that's the bottom of the iceberg. And so ultimately, with an argument, it is best to remain calm and understand that the other person is feeling unheard, and it's time to listen. And if you take the position of, oh, okay, this person doesn't feel that they're getting their message across, I need to lean in and better understand where they're coming from. And the if you allow that message, that underlying below the surface message to surface, the other person feels relieved. They calm down. And so we can really lean into arguments and see them as better understanding the other person. Also, better understanding a different perspective of life, to broaden your perspective so that you can be seeing life more as it is and have more gratitude for life as it is, as opposed to judging life and living by fantasies. And so this whole situation around arguments is ultimately someone that is a bit frustrated, that feels unheard, that wants to be heard and understood. And your role as a receiver is to listen and be curious as to what's driving the frustration, the irritability, the anger. Anger is just suppressed emotions. And it's often suppressed emotions that the person has held back from talking or saying earlier because of the fear of loss of the relationship. Or they may have low self worth and believe everything you're saying, and that they're wrong. And so there's this inferiority, or inferiority, if that's a word, inferiority complex. So they feel inferior and they see other people as superior, and it's all around low self-esteem. But ultimately it's because they haven't spoken up. They haven't spoken their mind. And this is very much this people pleasing characteristic that results in suppressed emotions, and then eventually tips over into anger and into arguments, right? And these arguments is ultimately wanting to be heard. And so we really want to lean in to these situations to better understand the person, to better help the person. Because if we get to the bottom of the iceberg, we're able to assist. But if we hold on to self righteousness and our pride and believe that we're right and they're wrong, that just escalates arguments. And that's when they get out of control, get out of hand, get, more emotions come into play. The only way we can diffuse it is to really listen and to understand and to let go of our pride and to let go of our self righteousness, to see their side, their perspective, to understand them better. That will broaden your perspective because often you're blinded to something they're seeing and you're not. And so we really want to lean into these situations to really see the world more as it is, more whole, more complete. And people are waking us up to our blindness, our things that we are unconscious of. They're bringing it to our conscious awareness. And it may be unsettling for us because it's maybe stuff that we're shameful of, that we need to find love and we need to love it in order to remove that shame and guilt. So there's always some entanglement here as to you think they're the problem, but ultimately it's something within you that's unsettled and it's from a prior experience that needs to be dissolved or resolved because it brings up triggers of seeing something in your youth or childhood and you felt uncomfortable with it. And a lot of, I guess, people feel uncomfortable in these situations because of this glamour that Hollywood paints around relationships, right? That they're all romantic and glamified, and we see that's one side of relationships, but the other side is understanding one another. The glamour side is more that yes, this is what we have in common. This is where we connect deeply, but we connect deeper when we understand the other side and love the other side of the person. And often, what happens with the glamour relationships, the romantic relationships, they dissolve in time because the other side of the person comes out, and that's the uncomfortable side. It's reminding them of something inside of them that they don't like, and so it's like a mirror. They're seeing themselves, and they don't like that side of themselves, and they can't stand seeing that side of themselves, and so therefore they run away from that relationship or leave that relationship. So ultimately, these conflicts are helping us to love something we haven't loved, to let go of pride, to let go of self righteousness, to see a broader perspective of life, to ultimately embrace life as it is, to be grateful for life as it is, and to love one another for who they are. So it's not there to, it's not necessarily war. War's a result of suppressed emotions, and suppressed emotions happen because the other person is feeling inferior and that they're not worthy to speak up or their opinions not valued. And so they don't speak up. And so if that happens, then eventually they're going to boil over and spill out in anger and frustration. And so that's a cue or a sign or a symptom of, hey, I'm not understanding this person or this person feels. And again, it can be a subjective understanding from their perspective is that they feel unheard, but you may be hearing them, but they feeling unheard. So once they get angry, then it's time to really listen and listen deeply and to understand, seek to understand first. And then when you better understand them, you're able to help them. They calm down as a result of being understood. And so it's really important that we lean in to these situations as opposed to putting our point of view first and speaking over the top of them. And then they still feel more and more unheard. And then that elevates the argument to a point that it explodes, right? So we don't want that. Ultimately, we want to extract what we need from the argument to better understand the person, to deepen the relationship, so that you can ultimately see where they're frustrated and help them or help them understand why you're behaving in such a way. And then when you both have that understanding, you're able to move forward and grow together. So ultimately, these arguments can deepen relationships if you choose to see that side. Or ultimately, arguments can be the cause and break of relationships. But the growth will come when you lean in as opposed to running away, because running away, you'll just run into something else that reminds you of yourself that you haven't loved, and that will frustrate you, because ultimately the world around us is helping us to become one. And if we choose to ignore that, we feel more and more disconnected. So ultimately, if you want to feel more connected with one another and everything, then we need to start to look inwards. We need to understand why we're feeling frustrated, irritable, or angry at someone. We need to understand our emotions, what's driving that. And then we need to dissolve that. And the only way we can dissolve that is looking at the other side, looking at the wholeness of it. If you're feeling guilt, then what's the upside of that guilt? How does it help? How does it help you? Um, and how does it serve you in terms of what you value? So if you're wanting help to embrace arguments and to really grow and develop relationships, then please reach out, because I can help you identify what's stopping you from moving forward, those roadblocks. I can help you dissolve those roadblocks to help you see the broader picture, context of what's happening around the argument, so that you can ultimately extract the argument and see it for what it is, and ultimately grow from it and help the other person grow from it by enabling the support function, because you better understand them. So please reach out. I'd love to help you if you're finding yourself in constant arguments, either with yourself or with others, and you're wanting to find the love and gratitude in what's happening. I can help you with that. Please reach out. Please book a discovery session with me in the show notes. And until next time, continue on your joyful journey. Thank you.